Question number 6. Question number 6 says, describe 3 kinds of market failure that might be justifications for government intervention in the economy. And our tutor does a great job here of explaining what market failure is first. So, market failure is a situation that occurs when there is inefficiency in the allocation of resources in the free market. These failures have solutions, and some of these failures require government mediations. So that is correct. Market failure occurs when there is an inefficiency in the allocation of resources in a free market. And like the tutor says here, these failures have solutions, and some of these failures require government mediations. Types of market failure that justify government information. First one is negative externalities, classified by the exploitation of the commons. Negative externality is a cost borne on a third party caused by the actions of the first and second parties in the society. An example of this is air pollution caused by factories. The pollution will also cause the public to suffer respiratory health conditions and even environmental problems. As such, government policies, rules, and regulations are needed to control and reduce negative externalities. The government permits are also required to operate businesses to administer and assess negative externalities caused. So this first example is a perfect example of when a government would or should intervene in a market failure, and that's when it's causing harm to a third party. So it's basically causing harm to people who aren't even buyers or sellers of this specific good. And factories are a perfect example here, because the pollution affects the environment, which affects the environment, which is the environment that other people, those third parties, are involved with, the environment that they're living with. And it also affects health issues like respiratory health conditions. And for that negative externality not to have too much of an impact, or to even reduce that negative externality, this negative externality of pollution, the government might intervene and set some sort of policies that limits pollution or causes firms to have to pay per the pollution they emit. So that would be one market failure that the government would need to intervene in. Let's see what our tutor says is number 2. Market forces of capitalism resulting in a concentration of power. Laissez-faire oftentimes yields to crony capitalism. This would result in a concentration of power in the market industry among a few firms, in which the market economy will be misconstrued and would further cause exploitation of the poor. The concentration of power of businesses in the market could give them the power to control prices and quantity of goods and services they sell in the market. This necessitates the interference of government to regulate through laws of policies the market in the market to protect the interests of customers. So again, this is another scenario where the government might need to intervene. And son is that if and it will usually come up in a situation where a market or someone in the market is trying to exploit its consumers. So for example, if they have too much control of the power, too much market power to control the prices and the quantity of goods and services they sell on the market. They might sell very few goods and charge them at an insane price. And a government intervention in this case could be setting price ceilings. So this is the max that you could charge for per good. And you might see this in rent control in certain areas of wherever you're living at. There might be laws that the government says that the max rent you could charge is XYZ, and that would just be an example of the government intervening and maybe causing rent, or people who own these apartment buildings or houses and they're renting it out, cause them to charge a fair and reasonable price to its consumers and not necessarily exploit its consumers because they have complete control over market power. And our third example over here, a tutor says, is asymmetry of information. Producers often sell goods and services in which quality of the products and their reputation as a seller is not publicly known. Consumers are knowledgeable of the genuine quality of the product and the sense of the reliability of the sellers. This results in an asymmetry of information. Information is not clearly disseminated to the public. This justifies for the government intervention for reliability and availability of information. For example, before food is out on the market, such as canned good, it is duly examined by the Bureau and the Food Authority. And again, this is another perfect example of when a government and why a government will intervene. And it's when the buyers, the consumers, don't have enough information about the good and they don't know too much about the good. And the example here would be, for example, before food is out on the market, such as canned good, it is duly examined by the Bureau of Food and Authority. So that's the government playing its part in just intervening, making sure that the good that is being put out in the market is should actually be put out on the market, and it shouldn't cause any sort of negative externality to its consumers. So when there's asymmetry of information, the government might intervene. For example, in the food description, like our tutor said here, they might intervene and examine the products before they're actually put out in the market. So all these three, asymmetry of information, market forces of capitalism resulting in the concentration of power, and negative externalities, are all three forms of market failure in which the government should and would intervene. So this is correct.